It's been a story that has essentially dominated headlines, outside of course, the Thabo Bester story, but it speaks about the KZN Education deciding to shut down over 900 schools, the closures beginning from next year. Now, it says that this is due to the low enrollment figures. The department blaming this on urbanization, violence, schools built on private land, but the move is not being welcomed by all. Well, let's get the view of the IFP, its provincial chair, Thami Ntuli, joining us now. A very good morning to you, Councillor Thami Ntuli. Thank you so much for your time. There is a reason that has been put forward, Councillor, for why these schools are being closed, and it seems as though, perhaps, if I may be getting it right, that you guys don't necessarily agree with those reasons.
Good morning to yourself and the viewers. In fact, as the IFP in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, we are not in agreement that schools should be closed, because we understand why some schools will have low enrollment. We talk here about specific schools that we know that there is a problem of staffing, there is a problem of the choices of the subjects, and they are rural in their nature, because the schools they are referring to, the majority of the schools are the schools which are in the rural areas. And you just imagine the distances that children will have to travel in order to reach the other schools. Even if there could be a provision of scholar transport, I don't think they will afford to provide scholar transport to all the communities, because even currently, there are so many learners who are still traveling very long distance, even distances which at times possesses some danger or threat to the lives of the learners. You just imagine a situation of a parent wherein a parent is supposed to go to school in order to support a learner's education, attending school meetings, even others elected as SGPs. How are they going to cope if in a rural area they have to travel kilometers in order to reach schools? I think this move by the Department of Education is not really addressing the fundamental reasons for low enrollment, because learners are migrating. Parents decide to move learners because of the quality of education in a particular schools, because of the resources which are not there. You talk about the issue of the libraries, of the laboratories, even at times, even the textbooks on its own. You find that they are not there, and even the choices of the subject, because the department itself also, in fact, regulate as to what subject the school will offer. Schools make a request and the department will say yes or no. As a result, you'll find parents having to move their learners. It's not that the population is not growing. In each and every community, the population is growing. But the problem is the issue of the resources of a child. That's then one view as the IFP in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, that what the Department of Education should be doing is to address the challenges which are there in different schools, so as to ensure that they keep those schools viable.
Address them how, Councillor Thami Ntuli? You say that they must address the issues so as to avoid closing them down, to avoid disadvantaging students in rural areas to having to now walk or even get transported long distances. How do they practically address the challenges?
Number one, the issue of the educators. In the province of KwaZulu-Natal, there are thousands of graduates or qualified educators who are sitting at home. And the department is not filling the key vacancies. Even if they had to fill, it will take a very long time. In some of the schools, they no longer, because their intention is to close down those schools in order to save money. I don't know. I don't understand as to what is it that they want to save the money for. That is the first thing they must address, to ensure that they employ those educators to the schools, so that the quality education will be provided in each and every rural and other schools in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. And number two is to ensure that the educational resources are provided to schools adequately. You mentioned the issue of the laboratories and libraries and all other necessary resources that will ensure that the education of a child in those rural schools, in fact, is handled in a manner that is also handled in schools which are in the urban places, so that will not find an inequality or the imbalance when you look at what is there in rural schools and what is there in the urban schools. We're of the view that that is what is supposed to be actually done. And number two, the issue of consultation. You cannot take a decision and announce and thereafter say you are going to consult. How do you consult when you have already taken a decision? We're of the view that even the communities, the rural communities, they are not, in fact, given necessary consideration here when a decision has to be simply just taken. And the gains that have been made in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, having so many schools, you know that during XY KwaZulu government, Prince Mangoso Tumteles was leading the government, and they built thousands of schools in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, ensuring that children had not to travel long distances in order to access education. So if you want to reverse that, in fact, the future of this province is going to be bleak. Because some of the students, they will find it very difficult to travel kilometers in order to access education. What kind of the society we are building in the province of KwaZulu-Natal if we are not, in fact, ensuring that the children who are the future of this province, they get a necessary education? Because whether you like it or not, there will be many dropouts if learners are subjected to unreasonable and long distances. Hence, we are saying as the IFP, the Department of Education needs to be sober. We are aware they've been making wrong decisions. The issue of the feeding scheme, which was a disaster, they seem to be collapsing, because even the great R educators, we got the reports that they were not paid at the end of the month. It seems as if there is a serious problem in the Department of Education. Hence, we are calling for them to stop this move of closing schools, rather to go and consult with the parents, to listen to the communities, so that they understand what are the problems, in fact, which are causing learners not to be there while the population keeps on increasing each and every day.